Hola, ¿cómo estás? ¿Quieres practicar tu español para Lima, por favor?
What the fuck did you just say?
No? Okay, well...
Speak English, goddammit.
What are you doing? An impression of the Eastern Europe, or excuse me, the USE server? God, I ruined my joke in 5 seconds. Just restart the whole recording. Hey, hi, buddy.
I made the joke way more interesting. I was like, where is this one going?
I haven't fully spun up yet. I'm really like I'm still in first gear, and the clutch is not. It's not shifting. I've been stuck, dude. Are you keeping the stash? Did Mom like it?
No, she didn't like it. I do think she found it funny though. And then by the end of the like 3-day deal, she was like, you know what? Stash is kind of growing on me. To which I responded, it's growing on me too.
I'm not even fake laughing. That's just so stupid.
I'm getting better at dad jokes as time goes on because Ellie likes them. So like I'm embracing that more and more, even though I'm not a dad.
You're becoming very prepared to just like be somebody's uncle. Like
now I've got the mustache too, right? Like I'm really just all in at this point.
Yeah, out of most of my friends, you've probably had the most looks over the past 3-4 years between hair, facial hair, like you
mohawk, bald.
There's just a bunch. Yeah. I'm currently in growing out a mullet stage, and I don't want to and I don't want to curse it because I don't know if it's going to work or not. But mullets
are in. Mullets they're coming back for sure.
They're super, which makes me actually like it a little bit less, if I'm being honest. But we're currently in growing out a mullet stage. I won't have one in time for the major. God willing, I find a plane ticket to Lima. But you're getting on an airplane soon because there's an exciting Dota event to happen, eh?
Yes, sir. This will be the first time that I have announced. Apparently, they're going to do talent announcements today, which I requested. I think this would be pretty hype. Mm-hmm. If you made in the talent announcement, if you made the picture size proportional to, I said their importance on the broadcast, but in a more objective way would be like rates or something.
Oh no. Well, that'll really inject into the conversation about like talent and people not like who didn't get hired. Oh man, what about Sheever? Like all this stuff. Like if you really did that, then oh boy.
Why is Sheever so big and Sheepstick is so small?
It should be a puzzle and just let people figure it out. Like do that without any context just to see what happens.
Yeah, the entire reason I did that was just to get a dig at Sheep, which she is also going to the major, so that'll be fun.
That's exciting. And you said you've never been to South America before, right? Is that true?
Yep, that is a continent that I have not visited. So once I go there, then all that's left is Africa at this point. Well, Australia, but
no, Australia counts.
It's a big island. It's a big island.
Australia counts as one you haven't been to. I was gonna say you don't have to count on Antarctica. I think that's kind of a bullshit. You don't have to worry about that.
I didn't even consider that one. Who am I? Metallica? I'm not going there just for the
Lord
fucking...
or anybody else. Yeah, it's.
Wait, Lord did that too?
Yeah, there's been a recent string of celebrities who have just like gone to Antarctica to like chill.
Right, just so they can say they've done 7 continents.
I can imagine if you have just a lot of money and potentially a lot of time, and if your thing is travel or like weird checklist travel, then it might make sense. Like I can see it. I don't really have it on my travel list, but I'm hoping to also check off South America. I have a lot of people who are there because the VCT lock-in's happening, and I'm like, hey, can we just go from Brazil to Lima? It's like a whole thing.
So I'm going to see you there, 100%? You said you're trying to lock down flights.
My situation is probably directly tied to how well Team Liquid does in groups.
Okay, so you're going to be there for the stadium days. if Liquid is in there.
Correct. Yeah, I'm not going and Dennis isn't going. We actually have someone from our Brazil staff who's a big Dota person who's going to be with the team recording some content, which is really cool. His name's Joao, and he'll be meeting actually the team for the first time. But if there's a world where things look like they're going to go pretty well, which everybody has their fingers permanently crossed, then I might find myself on an emergency flight.
How do you know how far they have to make it? Do they have to just win the first upper bracket quarterfinals to be in the to be in the stadium? I actually don't know how the stadium days are broken down.
I actually don't know how the stadium days are broken down either. I don't know if they're doing upper bracket quarterfinals and lower bracket 1s and 2s outside of the stadium.
We came here very prepared for the podcast.
Hey everybody, we haven't seen you in a couple of weeks. We've been busy with stuff, and when we get here, we did not do our homework. Oh boy.
It wouldn't be the first time, but also it's not really the important information.
It's really not.
No.
I've been very busy. I got a promotion at work.
Promotion?
I got a promotion at work. My official title now.
Why did they do that?
I don't know. It's probably because somebody else would be too expensive and I'm just cheap. I am now an executive producer, which is a title that feels like 20% not earned, because the only people who are EPs in Hollywood, unless you own your own company, are 50, which is cool but also weird. But I've been a busy boy.
So, quick question about did someone above you get a bump up and you're taking their spot? Did they create a new spot for you? Is this entirely just a responsibilities and pay rise increase? Are you getting a pay rise at all? How much is my cut?
Part of the reason, yeah.
I mean, I'm just saying, your brand is tied in with me. I feel like I've helped you be more successful. I mean, I'm sure it was in the meeting when they were like, Joey, we're giving you a promotion. We've seen your social media lately. You've got a really great podcast going on.
Yeah, but it's mostly Austin. We actually just want to work with Cap more. So if you can just get him in,
if we could pay you to get him to come to us, that would be really good.
We added a level in between me and my boss, which we were missing, and I took that level. So most of my job is still the same. I just have more employees now.
Okay, so that was what I was hoping to hear. So what I'm getting from this is you're not going to be as overworked as you have been.
That's part of it. So it's weird because it is both technically more responsibility, but also kind of just the same thing I've been doing anyways, but also more people underneath me to delegate stuff to. So the big theme for this year, and we can check in throughout it, or at the end, but the big thing for this year is me learning how to delegate.
I was gonna say this sounds like less work unless you are a control freak and need to micromanage every part So that's not you, right, Joey?
No, that's not me. I generally do not have issues with control, not in my love life, not in my family life, not in my work life, not in my video games. I don't, there's a reason. I'm not someone who plays Dota and shot calls because I'm
sure. And you don't start lists when it comes to hobbies and have to complete it all the way through, right? You don't have to see every single level of things being totally done, right?
I feel like no. That feels oddly targeted. That feels really incredibly targeted, but I can assure you that is not the case. I haven't watched The Last of Us yet, but it's really bothering me that it's on the top of my backlog for TV, and there's 6 episodes now today, and I haven't watched a single one because apparently, have you watched any of it? People are very happy.
I've watched 3 or 4. I watched it after I was always going to watch it, but there was so much hype around the 3rd episode, which does not involve the main characters, but involves a storyline of a gay couple, and that was it was very well done. But obviously, it's one of those things that is gonna get a lot of reaction out of people, mostly good. It's one of those. Is it like insulting for me to say that it's like what is that term for movies? Oscar bait.
Or queer baiting? Like
no, like Oscar bait. You know, like there are certain movies that are like more. I feel like that episode was kind of like that, in that it was a very endearing, like heartful story and stuff like that.
Like that's the one that they're gonna give to the Emmys and be like, this is our like best TV show for Yeah, I don't think Emmy bait's a thing, but like Oscar bait is a thing for sure.
Okay.
Also, not that you brought this up in any way, but I actually recently finished my entire backlog of movies, and then it made me anxious that the list was empty. So what I've decided to do now, Austin, I really need to go see a therapist. What I decided to do is I added every Best Picture winner since I was born, which there's now 30, soon to be 31 of. And I've already watched 15 of them. So there are 15 Best Picture movies. Then my goal is to watch them all this year.
You know where that's going to go, right?
No.
You're going to complete that list, and then you're going to expand to the entire Best Picture
there's
list.
90 of those. I think there's 96 of those. 94? 95? It's one of those numbers. I do not like watching old movies.
Okay.
So I think I can stop myself.
All right, fair enough. I was watching an old movie the other day, Charade. Have you seen that one?
No.
With Cary Grant and Audrey Hepburn.
No.
Big fan of. I like both of those actors. Pretty good, but there was definitely some. And like I've seen it before. I think I saw it when I was like a teenager or something like that. Mm-hmm. And Cary Grant is like, he's like upper 40s, early 50s. And Audrey Hepburn's like probably like 18.
Ooh.
Somewhere in that area. And it definitely, like, there was way more like, when I saw it as a teenager and when I see it now, there's so much like social commentary that has now been added in my head over that. Like when he's calling her like a kid and like stop being so childish and stuff like that. And like the just the trope of the older man, younger girl dynamic was just like, I was like, man, this is really, there is a gross element to this. The fact that they put this together in the first place, because that's what, audiences want.
It's funny you say that, because I just recently watched American Beauty on a plane, which is also a movie that features an older Kevin Spacey, potentially being interested in his high school daughter's friend, and what unfolds there, which is not a great plane movie. I also watched Inception on a plane, which is a very funny movie to watch on your cell phone, like this, and going, I think it's really actually meant for like IMAX, and Christopher Nolan probably wants to kill me. But yeah, so point being, I don't know what you're talking about having to log and checklist their media.
Yeah, definitely no idea about that. Idea. I hope the conclusion to this is at the end of the year is that you are less overworked, because you are definitely overworked. So I'm glad they gave you a promotion and recognize that.
So one of my goals is actually that I've set for myself personally is to work less than 20 50-hour weeks this year. Because I keep track of my time.
Twice as many vacations, apparently. That's also another goal.
Well, okay, those feel like they help each other. Also, unrelated, I got on a plane to Orlando on Thursday.
Wait, what?
I'm just gonna go to Orlando for the weekend with my family. Not that I'm trying to take another vacation or anything.
Why are you going to Orlando? It's just because your parents are old and naturally people just go to Florida.
This is boring for podcasts, but like there's a family event, and there's also like a pool show. And my dad does pools, so my mom's like, but honey, it'll be a tax write-off. And really, she wants to go to Disneyland, and my dad's going to go to a convention. It was like a whole thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
I see. The only reason I brought this up is my aunt and uncle, they on the side, they renovate houses, rent them out, or landlords. And they They have, over the last like 10 years, gotten some property in Hawaii. I don't know how many places in Hawaii, but now they're thinking, maybe it just might be one now. But they're thinking about selling their stuff in Hawaii and moving that entire interest over to Florida. I was just like, why? All right, whatever.
Because it's easier?
Yeah, I guess so.
I guess.
I don't know. I mean, the travel to Hawaii probably sucks. Not that I've ever been there, because honestly, I have no interest in Hawaii whatsoever, but that's another side topic. I just go somewhere in Southeast Asia instead.
You can get more for your money, and you're already kind of in the area. Hawaii isn't that dissimilar from when we were in Bali, except it's more resorty and less privacy. Yeah, and less garbage. Which there was a depressing post on Reddit about plastic in the ocean, and top of the board was Philippines. Apparently, I was like, yeah, I kind of remember that from being in the Philippines. Yeah, it's unfortunate. Yeah. Well, what else have you been up to? What else have I been able to? So I came back from Malaysia, and then I went and visited my mom and my family. She tore down or renovated her carport, not her garage, but she also had a carport for the house that she bought. Just for the sake of not me, but the audience who, I mean, our audience is very global, and some of them might. What's the difference? A carport is like open, basically. A garage has a garage door. It's a full like 4 walls and roof sort of deal. A carport is more like just a roof and a sidewall. Usually there's like the front and back are both open. It's more like an open garage sort of deal. So yeah, renovated that, made it into a little apartment, which she might rent out to traveling doctors and nurses, is apparently her play. And so she had that done. She completed it. And then when we were supposed to go up for Christmas, that got canceled. So we came up now, and we helped her. We went to IKEA and bought a bunch of like typical rental, like for a furnished apartment sort of thing. So just a bunch of plates and cups and stuff like that. And then moved a bunch of some of the furniture she had from previous houses that she had into the apartment and set it up all. And yeah, that was pretty much the weekend. Went to the casino a few times, won some money on blackjack. Hey, how pleasantly entrepreneurial. The carport, not the casino. Yeah, normally that's so my we got a lot of stuff to talk about real quickly. My mom's husband is a part of the tribe that owns a fancy casino. That is a new casino up in the Washington, Oregon area. And let me just say, I've heard some numbers. God damn. Good business? Damn. Good business? Yeah, it's very good business. I mean, they just pretty much hand out money to like the tribe members. It's just like, yeah, we've got shit tons of money. What? You need like you're going to put in a well? Yeah, we can pay for that. You're going to put in a well in your house? Yeah, we'll pay for that. No problem. That must be a fun job to be the person at the casino who is actually community interfacing and getting to help people and being like, yes, what kind of philanthropy can we do today? Yeah, that's probably great when you own a casino. Especially like a new casino that's making like a bank. Yeah, that's probably really fun. If you're one of those tribes who does not have that source of income, it's probably real shit. But this situation, yeah, they're great, apparently. What's the Dota stuff that people want to talk about? So I can leave a timestamp for roughly, I don't know, here for the people who are like, but I want the timestamps, Joey. Look, you clicked on the button. We're right here. We're going to talk about Dota now. Okay, so Joey, do you want to hear how wrong you are now or later? About what? Just answer the question, now or later. Now. I'll take now. Okay. All right. There's cheating all over the place in the DPC, Joey, just like I told you there was going to be. And this was going to be a serious problem. And lo and behold, it took not even a full season for me to be right on multiple accounts. I mean, okay, not to sound like one of like the bad single white males on the internet, but like we have laws. What do you mean? We have like I mean, has this gone through the judicial process? Like, I mean, have people been innocent until proven guilty? Is all I'm saying. Has anybody been banned yet?
No, but I've
well then,
read
how do we know it's cheating? How do we know it's cheating?
I've read and seen most of the evidence, and it looks pretty damning.
Okay.
Especially the Southeast Asia cheating allegations, where you can watch the video. It's basically accusing a map hack. And when you go through the player perspective, you can see that he stops moving his mouse because he's alt-tabbing. And if you watch the VOD, I think there's a moment where you could see like a light, like a flashbang goes off in CSGO. Like you obviously changed Windows. So that one's pretty damning. There's now a South America cheating allegation, a whole ring, it seems like. I read through the details just like an hour ago. There was like a tweet from like Chompix out there. There's definitely more details that are going to be coming out. But it does kind of seem like this is just a general like ring of betting and match fixing of multiple people involved and multiple teams in the South American DPC second division. Not surprising that the lower division has this sort of cheating allegations and stuff like that. I wouldn't be surprised if it's in upper division in one or two regions. But obviously, like there are some havens of integrity, I think, just because Dota is still worth a shit ton of money. And why would you possibly throw away, like 10 years of work that you put together for a chance to be able to win a shit ton of money? So, but yeah, it's there. It's out there. It's not surprising at all to me because the amount of money that is. The surprising thing for me about South American DPC Div 2 was the how little some of the payouts were for this. Just because some of the other numbers I've heard,
like low thousands.
Yeah, like hundreds, low thousands. Not particularly large amount of money. I mean, obviously more for players who are operating in South America, where the money's going to go farther, but also in Div 2, where you're probably not looking to try and go to TI. But yeah. I see 1,500 souls, 3,500 souls, 1,500 souls to USD is $393.
I mean, obviously money is differently in some of those countries and is worth considering, but that doesn't sound like much.
Yeah.
That doesn't sound like much to me.
No. But again, these are players that like they're not trying to go to TI, so you might as well make some money out of this. And if Dota's on the decline, or you just don't really see a future, you're moving on. You're not going to play, professionally or competitively a whole lot.
So if I were to just hypothetically take like the thumbnail for this episode on YouTube and like the title and call it like cheating in the DPC ? Exclamation point ? Like what picture do I put up there? Like is it
you put me, Leonardo DiCaprio, pointing at TV. I told you. Look, I told you cheating was going to be a big thing. Yeah. Let's just to be clear, I haven't really like the inside information, quote unquote, that I have about these sort of things is just like I've had players tell me like, yeah, I've gotten messages where they're like offering like $10,000s of dollars to match fix. It's crazy. Like that is the limit to my inside information. So it's not like I saw any of this coming or I knew any of this. It's just I just feel like that is where we're at as we reach 12 years of Dota. And things are, we stagnated. We've been on the decline a little bit. Dota is going to be fine. It's going to be around for a while, but it's not terribly surprising to me that there is going to be cheating that's going around. We just have to be aware of that and make sure that we prosecute it to the fullest that we can within the context of Dota, which we'll see what Valve does with all of this and who ends up getting banned and who doesn't.
Now, what if you're somebody like playing in the Chinese DPC? Say your team is new. They're called it's like Knights maybe. And
you're going to the major. Yeah,
you're going to the major. You had a pretty good season, but now you've been accused twice of having issues. One early in the season, and now another one. I think it was actually Vlad who on Twitter was like, "Hey guys, there's some problems going on here." With like, candidly, at least for me, not a ton of evidence. It's just like a big spike in betting odds, like very specific betting things, which is indicative of some action happening, or it's indicative of a couple people being really stupid. But I don't know. Like what if you're a team that's going to the major and has a couple accusations against them? That feels wild.
You know, I just thought of this. What if, right, the spike in when it comes to betting and stuff like that? What if that's just what if it starts with the accusation that Knights is cheating, and then somebody's like some whales like, oh, those guys are cheating, I'm gonna drop a shit ton of money on them, you know? I actually don't remember exactly what Vlad said. That was just a random thought. What if the accusation of cheating leads to higher, you know, betting numbers for that team in a specific match?
Yeah, Vlad said, I actually just pulled a stream what you were saying the last thing. He said, unnormal amount of money were placed on eHome victory on map 2. And what makes me really sad is the odd even number of kills on map 2. Presumably the bet of like, if there's gonna, that's like a normal prop bet, I think, like what'll end, odd or even number of kills. And then with just the blanket statement, Knights versus eHome match was fixed. Which, for all journalistic purposes, not confirmed. Look at that. Hire me, Wall Street Journal.
Yeah, I think the prop bets are really the one that are the scariest, because you can throw a game without having to get the players to commit to throwing the entirety of the game, right? First to 10, I know, is a very common one because I see it all the time in Twitch chat. And like people just get so hyped about the 10th kill coming in. If the score is 9-9, I see the chat just going ballistic, and I'm just like, what's going on now? Now I know it's because there's a prop bet of first to 10. So you can like if you're in that position, like you could very easily just like, all right, well, we're gonna give away the 10 kills, but still try really hard. It makes it even harder to, from a third person perspective of just watching the game and watching player behavior. Again, I think players have been dog shit like in the past at being able to hide this behavior. For the most part, the people who have been caught have done a terrible job of hiding it. But like these sort of prop bets make it even easier to hide that sort of behavior, right? Because, you know, like you only have to give away a few kills and you could still super try hard to be able to win the game.
Yeah, or you can just, you know, end the game with 1 more kill or 0 more kills if you're trying for a not even thing, right?
Yeah, that one's that I did not know was a prop bet, and that one is perhaps the most egregious. Just because, yeah, you could literally just fucking, can't you just like, all right, we're ending the game. The hard part about it is like the enemy team is like, if they're not match fixing, right? But you are, and you're winning the game, you don't know when they're going to GG out. So that one is kind of interesting. That
feels hard to do without like really good coordination from most parties.
Yeah, what do you do? Like, you just constantly maintain odds if you're winning? If you match fix for an odd number of kills, you're just like, we killed someone. Someone go suicide quickly before, you know, like just in case they GG out. Like, how do you protect that? But in a normal like the defending team lets like they play it out to the full extent. You know, you could just go fountain dive.
That feels so obvious though. Oopsie doopsie. Gonna go fountain dive.
Like at the same time, when you're like conclusively have won a game and you're literally just ending throne, like players drop items and shit all the time. You know, it's like that sort of behavior is not that abnormal.
I guess. Where do you? Okay, so we got most of this action is happening in like Div 2, right? Except for the accusation against Knights and eHome, which is Div 1, China, obviously.
Yeah, and the fact that they're slated to go to Lima and stuff like that, like I personally am I feel like I have no inside information here, but I feel like Valve has always taken cheating allegations pretty seriously, and they have
Moogie says hi, right?
Yeah, they've done their research like pretty quickly. I feel like they follow up on the allegation like really quickly. So the fact that, again, there's nothing that has happened yet is, I assume, that is inconclusive. So I'm going to operate on an assumption that they were not cheating. And that was just, really good wording by whoever.
Both Knights and eHome are going to Lima, like you said. They're both in different groups. We had a group draw the other day. And which one are you more excited to follow?
Okay, so I'll list out the teams really quickly. Group A has eHome, EG, Execration, Gaming Gladiators, PSG LGD, Talon, Team Spirit, TSM, Tundra. The scary part of that group is the fact that they have 2 TI winners in Team Spirit and Tundra. So that one is scary because those teams at their best won the biggest tournament, right? So you have like 2 behemoths. You've got PSG LGD in there, who is very good.
They won. They won China again. Yeah.
Yeah. I believe so. Yeah. The score was not. The score, I believe, was pretty close.
They won China off a tiebreaker.
Yeah. They were 6-1 with Aster, who I think I might favor more from the limited amount of China DPC that I've watched, but I haven't done my research fully for Lima. Also, I'm a caster, so I don't have to do as much research. Whenever I go to an event and there's potential that I have to work as a panel, I do so much more research than I do as a caster, because
gotta have those insights. You gotta have those fun talking points to pull out.
Yeah. I also, like, as a caster, I can be more reliant on my partner, who I trust SVG to do. I mean, he's very, very hardworking, so I know he's going to do all of this research. And in some ways, it does open up a little bit easier for me to like ask questions and that sort of thing. I still do research. It's just not as in depth because I don't feel like I need to have strong analysis. I don't have to have the best analysis that I could possibly have, which I need for panel, I think. But anyway, so that's Group A. Another thing to note about Group A is Group A has 2 Southeast Asian teams, which is... I actually, I was watching back Geek Slate versus Blacklist, and in my head, I was like, Geek Slate is the best Southeast Asian team. And then I watched Game 3, because Sheep sent me a message about it. She said the cast was really good. And so I was like, oh, I'll go back and watch that. And now I'm not so sure that Geek Slate is actually the best team. I thought Geek Slate had the best chances of having a high performance of the C teams. Maybe it's actually Execration. But either way, I feel like the region is kind of messy right now. And games tend to go really late. There's a lot of mistakes happening, and as a result, games do go late, which, given the performance by another team that is going to Lima, Shopify Rebellion, and their recent performance at BTS, where they closed out the grand finals in like a grand total of like actual game time was something like 80 minutes or something. They 3-0'd and they won every game within like 25, 30, 35 minutes. Like they just stomped the shit out of Nouns. Which means that they were playing really fast. So that, like, I don't know. I just have a feeling that C is just not on
meta?
The meta right now. Yeah, I have a feeling they're just not going to do well. So that is why I mentioned the 2 C teams. And they also have eHome, who I think is the weakest of the Chinese teams. So at that, I feel like Group A is definitely the weaker of the 2, even if they do have Team Spirit and Tundra TI winners. Not really convinced. I think it might be a little top heavy. That's all.
So are you saying that it's easier for you to predict who's gonna drop out from Group A, whereas Group B is more of a crapshoot?
Okay, so I rate strength of groups by how hard it is to get into top 4.
Okay.
and how hard, and then after that, how hard it is to stay in the tournament period and not get eliminated. So I think Group A is messier on the bottom, whereas I expect Team Spirit and Tundra to have a clear, easy road to top 2. And I think the 3rd and 4th spot of Group A, potentially, especially the 4th spot, weaker teams in that 4th, 5th, and 6th spot. The teams staying in the tournament, I think, are going to be weaker in Group A. Whereas Group B, I think, is a lot scarier. They have Beast Coast, Bet Boom, Entity, Geek Slate, Hellraisers, Knights, Shopify Rebellion, Team Aster, and Team Liquid. Which right away, I look at it and say, okay, Bet Boom, super scary team. Liquid, super scary team. Shopify Rebellion, what? Maybe they're a scary team. I'm not really sure. Know. They got 2-0'd by Nouns, and then they turned around and 3-0'd Nouns. So I don't know exactly how to feel about that team. I'm not sure if they're a top 4 team right now. But I do think Aster is very strong. So you got 3 teams in there that I think are super scary.
Beast Coast won South America.
Beast Coast did win South America. I think they're not a team that I would put on top. I still kind of feel like EG will end up having a better performance internationally. They're in Group A, but I do think Beast Coast, decent chance that I think they're probably going to stay in the tournament, and I think decent chance that they end up being the fourth best team. Maybe they end up 5th, 6th. We'll see. But as it is, I feel like there are more teams in Group B that have a chance to win the tournament outright. And that also makes it harder to place in the top 4 as a result.
Yeah, I look at Group B through biased eyes and go, I feel fine, but also there's a lot of strong teams in this group. There's a lot of strong teams in this group. I've watched Aster play a little bit. They feel really good. Shopify, you never really know. The only teams that I'm actually not really concerned about are Hellraisers and Knights. And Knights, I'm saying, even though they performed adequately in China, and I know we're just memeing on them a little bit, a lot of them don't seem to have taken a big stage before, and that always feels like an important one to me.
Yeah, I mean, Hellraisers, they do have Solo, so extremely experienced captain. Maybe that'll help the fact that they do have a bunch of new guys showing up on stage. They also have Yuragi standing in, which is probably one of the best stand-ins you could possibly have for a team like Hellraisers. So,
Yuragi, who is still on OG, but standing in for DeHawks, who has gotten the old boot. Is that correct?
Yeah, there's something really weird going on there. As far as DeHawk has put out, basically said he's going to talk about him more, but his whole situation on that team seems pretty toxic, potentially on both sides. I don't really know. He basically talked about how he would wake up early, and but then there was a response about how he would intentionally limit his hero pool because it was quote unquote too easy to play certain heroes, which is maybe not the best idea for practice, to have that kind of I know players like that. The players who are I don't want to play that hero. That hero is 2 mana. It's too easy to win. Lina right now is too easy to win. That hero is, yes, OP, but it is easy to win with that hero. It is a very low execution hero. All you do is just throw a spell somewhere on the ground. If it hits a hero, then you just right click people. Laning against Lina is intolerable because these Linas are just, they are insane. It's like a Drow Ranger sniper on crack with the way they position, where they're just I'm gonna right click this person, and they just play inside of the creep wave, continuing to right click you when any other hero I think would get punished. But Lina can do that, so whoop-de-doo. Anyway, so yeah, that whole situation seems kind of weird. We'll see if Hellraisers is made better by Yuragi being on it or not. But I know someone did I think GPK did a tier list, and I think he had Depressed Kid in the S or A tier of mid laners, which makes me feel a little bit better about Hellraiser's chances of at least being a decent, contending team. I don't think there's anybody in Group B that I think is just going to bomb out and go 0-12 or whatever the fuck their number is.
Yeah, I mean, I expect Geek Slate to still get wins. Hellraiser should get wins. Knight should get wins. Those are probably the three teams. Probably those three teams and maybe Entity, depending on what form they show up in, are the four that I'm looking at to probably be towards the bottom.
Yeah, I think that's probably pretty solid. Knights, Hellraisers, Geek Slate, somewhere in the bottom three with the potential of Beast Coast and Entity having just a really bad performance, and you know those two teams could easily be top four, or you know I could see a world where they just have a bad tournament and bomb out. That is possible. I think Liquid, Aster, Shopify, and Bet Boom are all pretty solidly locked in the top four, with a slight asterisk on Shopify, just seeing how they actually perform, not in against NA teams.
But Cap, isn't Bet Boom gonna lose one game and then they're gonna have a fucking circle jerk explosion and then all of Russia's gonna collapse and then they're gonna murder each other on stage? Like that's the narrative that I keep on hearing in some way, shape, or form.
I think it is a valid narrative. I think GPK himself, he had like super long interviews that have been put up on Reddit. I've been reading all the translated posts that people have been posting on Reddit. A lot of really good information on there. GPK himself fully admit that, you know, that is a possibility, but he did address that. He talked about the fact that like how when they were on Virtus Pro and stuff like that, like just in general, they were younger. And those players are still friends. It's just like certain things couldn't work out. With that team, they've got Toronto Tokyo, who I think I have a lot of respect for in everything that I've read and heard said about him as a player. And I think he could be definitely a good stabilizing force. And I hold Pure as a player to very high regard. I think he's crazy, crazy good. And he made Entity so much stronger last year. Especially in the online performances on LAN. Stormstormer definitely, like, he was an absolute monster on LAN, but I think Pure was very oftentimes like carrying them through some online games.
That's exciting. I'm just kind of happy for the tournament to happen. I think I just have bonus excitement because for the first time in, I'm gonna say ever, there is like a real walking into a tournament and being like, you know, I can say that we might win this and it might not be like a silly copium thing to say. It's a realistic thing to say. Like, we know what a better way to put that is. I can say, hey guys, I think Liquid's gonna win, and you won't just laugh at me. Like, you can go like, you know what, maybe. and I don't think that's been the case for the last like 2 or 3 years. So
yeah, but that just means the disappointment hits that much harder.
Yes.
Yeah, so there is a flip side to that. We'll see how consistent Liquid's performance is this year, but I do think, I mean, Nisha is a very consistent player. I mean, he really has 0 downs throughout his career, and I think in general the Liquid team has probably weathered through last year's ups and downs and grown a lot. And they're probably, in general, have figured out a better formula for things. So
here's the big thing for me: Boxy and Mickey still playing like they were playing at TI.
Yeah, for sure.
Boxy might be the best 4 in the world.
Yeah, judging by I did a episode with Blitz. And judging by what he had to say, or rather what he said Matu had to say about Boxy, does put a very, very bright, shiny light on Boxy as a player, even though other players don't necessarily feel the same way about him. But we'll see. Maybe he'll change some minds this year, maybe at this very event,
you know,
if TI wasn't enough.
You know, I actually listened to the Cap and Blitz podcast yesterday, which if anybody listening hasn't, you should just subscribe to that feed because it's one of those shows which is great for me who listens to a lot of podcasts because I really appreciate a show that really does come out like 5 times a year because I get excited when it happens. I know that I'm going to listen to it and I always enjoy it and I don't, you know, it's great. So I was
see. So that's why you're trying to turn the Side Pole podcast into that.
I have been having a very rough couple of weeks, Austin. Please forgive me, everybody.
Got him. I mean, it was my fault too. I went to my mom's and stuff. Forgive me for seeing family.
Yeah. Forgive me for taking a couple airplanes and having a couple mental breakdowns. What was I saying? I was standing in line waiting to get lunch. I actually went to like a popular chicken shop in Pasadena yesterday, and I was like, I'm gonna start listening to the Captain Blitz podcast, and then it started to finish around the time that I got my food. So you kept me company in line. It felt like I was there with my friends, which was cool. The
podcast was like an hour and a half. How did it take you an hour and a half to get food? You would go to Howlin' Ray's?
I did.
Oh, okay. It makes more sense.
Yeah, it did. They opened one in Pasadena. This is just, if you haven't been, it's like you walk into an episode of The Bear. Everybody's like, yes, chef. Like, it's a real kitchen. It's crazy and it's really cool. And they give you free stuff. It was really nice. Like, the whole experience.
And super
was really
long
nice.
lines like the one in Chinatown?
Yes, I went at a bad time. On the weekends, they're only open till 4, and also on the weekends they do chicken and waffles, so people go for the waffles, which I didn't know. If I were you, who lives closer, you should go on a weekday. But they're closed Monday, Tuesdays. Anywho, not a Howlin' Rage promotion. But probably still the gold standard for hot chicken. Moving on. You guys did this funny thing where it's like you were going to end the podcast like 2 different times, and I looked at the media player on my phone, and I'm like, there's still 40 minutes left. What are they going to talk about?
Yeah, it tends to go that way for sure. I also messed up the intro. I do very little when it comes to editing.
No, hold on. I thought that was intentional.
It wasn't.
I thought it was intentional because you did like okay, you ready to go? And then Will's like, yeah, okay, let's do it. And then there's like a beat, and then you're like, hey, everybody, it's not. And I'm like, oh man, that's cool. They were doing like a little false start behind the scenes thing, but really,
no, that's actually how the podcast starts every single time, and I usually edit that out. And then I forgot, left it in, and then I listened to it, and I was like, whatever, it's not that bad. I don't care.
It was interesting for me, who probably has more perspective than most, to hear y'all talk about some of the Liquid stuff over the season. I'm really glad that mostly Blitz had a platform, again, to talk about, like, hey guys, we're not paying Nisha like $1 bajillion, because that rumor makes me, like, upset for some reason. Because of how wrong it is, and also like, oh man, he's streaming. They must have like a crazy contract that they're enforcing him. And it's like, no, we're not. Everybody, can you stop being silly?
Look at these loser simps, Joey and Blitz, having pride in the people, the organization that they work for.
I know. Make Dota sustainable. It's important.
Well, that's not going to happen, but yeah. Speaking of Dota being unsustainable, Fnatic, a popular esports organization and team, has been in Dota forever, has dropped out of Dota.
Is this... okay. Well, okay, so do you think that they are going to be out of Dota indefinitely, or until TI comes around, or until they can pick up a team somewhere between now and TI?
Well, judging by what happened afterwards with a number of the players saying looking for team and that they were willing to relocate, which at this point in time I feel like is sometimes just copium. The C has always been rifled through for all the best talent, and I do feel like for some people that, like, I do know that some of those players like actually wanted to stay in Southeast Asia, but I also feel like some of those players, like, I just don't know if there's actually any international attention for them. Hold up. Can you hear my washer and dryer?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, if you can't hear it, never mind then. Anyway, what was I saying? So, yeah, so both Gaddy and Armel, I think, have put out that they're looking for a team. They're willing to relocate. I think that Fnatic will probably still pick up a team. because they have a long history in Dota, and sometimes these things just come to a point of pride. I think Dota is still a premier esports, so I do imagine that Fnatic will get back in before TI happens. Whether maybe they pick up a team specifically for TI, we'll wait and see. But it just looks like to me that team sort of imploded. They didn't really have better options, so what's the point of like grabbing a team that you don't really have faith in? Especially since you got bombed down to Div 2. Better to just wait until there's a team that does perform well, pick them up and take their upper division slot. You know, whoever's coming up from Div 2, and if they look good and stay in Div 1, maybe you pick them up instead.
Yeah, I mean, those teams that are succeeding right now, I don't think they have. I mean, there's Army Geniuses and Polaris are the two who are coming up. Polaris is an actual org. Army Geniuses is, I guess, too, but they're like more of a mobile thing. They probably have buyouts.
Yeah.
But, ooh, I did not expect to see this, but if I stop and think about Fnatic leaving, it makes sense for reasons you said. The big one for me is, like, if you're not going to be in Division 1 as a Tier 1 esports organization in Dota, why are you there? I can't think of any teams, sans Alliance, which, not to be too inflammatory, I would not put them in the same bucket as, like, you know, Liquid, G2, Fnatic, 100 Thieves, like EG, stuff like that. And then the other, like, Nigma, who's kind of similar. But how many other, like, now you can say secret, how many other Tier 1 esports organizations, or like Tier 1.5, have Division 2 teams?
Yeah, not very many. And if they do have them, they are teams that should have a clear, like Secret, obviously Tier 1 in Dota, not necessarily Tier 1 in the esports scene in general.
But I would actually start to contest that, because they do have a spot in VCT.
Yeah. The that I think that, like, they very realistically will be back in Division 1 next season. They also have a group of players that are very valuable, most notably Puppy, and he'll always be valuable even if he's in Div 2. So
yeah, Fnatic's been in Dota since November of 2011.
Yeah, Fnatic EU, I think their first team they picked up was the Han team. Was that they had Trixie, and was that the first one?
No, that actually wasn't the first team. That was their second team. Their first team, and I only know this because I'm looking at the Wikipedia page right now, is they had a team of Serbian players for 4 or 5 months in 2011 into 2012, and then they dropped those and then picked up the Han team, which was Arahani, Trixie, No-Tail Fly,
Razine, and Mitch. Yeah, I do actually. I remember those names. I don't think that team had any. I mean, they weren't a TI. 99% certain. So, yeah. Well, how long did they have that team? They had that team for 4 months. I'm not even going to count them. They don't count.
Okay, fine. Then they started with the Han team, and then they...
Hell yeah, I got it right, baby.
And they moved to Southeast Asia in 2015. So they've been in the region for like 8 years.
Yeah.
7-8 years, right? The other thing that makes me a little bit worried is that you've seen a lot of esports teams just start to shed some rosters, which I think speaks to, like, the maybe potential worldwide financial downturn that we may or may not be in. It speaks to a lot of layoffs in the tech sector. It speaks to a lot of, less money in marketing. If Fnatic doesn't have, like, a major sponsor that's coming back because of something like that, they might have less money, and it might make the most sense business-wise to cut the Dota team, which is just expedited by the fact that it is going to be in Division 2, and a team that's not functioning. You've seen C9 use a lot of teams. You've seen, like, Team Liquid have a PUBG team. You've seen this over and over and over again, right? So it's probably just a mixing pot of a lot of different scenarios that are all coming to roost at an opportune time. My hope is that they can field another roster and don't just shy away from Dota because of, like, some bigger economic issues at the company. Because Fnatic cannot get rid of
so.
League of Legends. And I don't think they can get rid of Counter-Strike, even though they're like not really top of table and haven't been for a hot minute.
CSGO is bussing right now. It's they hit a top concurrent player record again.
Good for them.
Yeah. Sad for Dota. Yeah. Oh, speaking of Dota, we hit 7 billion games.
Oh man.
That is impressive.
That's so much human time. Think about it, because 7 billion games, even if you assume that most of them are like actually played out in some way, that's 70 billion players. All playing for like an average of 30 minutes each. Think of the amount of time that takes.
Yeah, we could have accomplished so much more. We could have made an 8th wonder of the world, but instead, shame.
You know,
such a big loss of potential.
That's really impressive. I would really like to put it in context of like how many Counter-Strike games have been played, how many Fortnite drops have happened, etc., etc.
You're talking about like game time instead of matches, like what total game time humanity has spent.
Not collectively, but I would love to put the Dota numbers in context against like similar games or like different games. Because
I wonder how much I contribute to that. Hold up, I'm loading up my Dota right now. I'm gonna see how many matches I've played in Dota
on just your primary.
Yeah, because Steam hours. Well, I don't really have a secondary account, so Joey trying to get me caught. I have 12,537 matches, so I'm part of that 7 billion. I'm a decent chunk.
12,000. God, if I just do 12,000 times, what do you want to say? Like 35 minutes each. That's nice. 420,000 blaze it. Let's just divide that by 60 real quick. That's 70,000 hours. We'll divide that by 24. Hold on, just doing some quick math. That's 7,000 divided by 24.
In other math, I am 0.00001791% of the 7 billion.
So
I did my part.
So you're really close to have spent by this rough math 300 days of playing Dota, which is basically a year. So I'm just going to keep rounding. You've spent roughly 1/30th of time that you've been alive playing Dota, which feels impressive.
True. Thank you. I'm a very impressive. Like, listen, if I didn't get this job as a commentator, that would be so sad. But instead, it's a success. It's a triumph. It's a point of pride. Look how hard I work, everybody. I'm a good Dota player and I'm a good commentator, and those things go a little hand in hand, But God, if I didn't have this job, boy, that would be super depressing.
I'll push back really lightly for anybody in the audience who's like, I've played that much and I don't think it's sad.
Losers! Loser! You're a loser!
Never mind. Not going to push back. Bunch of losers. What
should have become a commentator, idiot. Then you could justify your extreme addiction.
There was one more person who left a team, just to round that out real quick.
Oh, yeah?
Ramsey's not on Darkside anymore.
Yes, the rumors have come home to roost. Who is going to be replacing Crystallis? Long have we waited, Redditors. I knew that guy was shit. I told everybody Crystallis is the entire reason that Secret did not win the International against snoring, boring Team Tundra. God, those guys are boring. That's a Redditor take, by the way. That's not actually me saying that. Yeah, so it looks like obviously there's going to be some changes in Secret, I think. If you get knocked down to Div 2, probably not happy. So the rumor is that Ramsey's probably going to be heading over there. Somebody else, I don't really remember. I'm just waiting to see if it actually comes true or not. But yeah, I think it's it was decently likely that Secret would make some sort of change. If not now. Because the hard part, I guess the now that I think about it, the hard part of their position right now is, let's say you stick with the team, right? Mm-hmm. The second season doesn't really tell you anything because you're in Div 2.
No, you should win all those games. If you don't win all those games,
you should win those games no matter what. You can't actually tell, like, obviously your scrims are probably an okay indicator, but like you can't actually tell if your team has gotten better and can make a TI run again, sort of deal.
I wonder if they
in
lose
that third crucial season.
I wonder if they lose some of their Div 1 scrim partners.
It's an interesting note, but I feel like, I think that is possible. But at the same, they will actually gain more. Technically, they will gain more Western European scrim partners while they are in Div 2 because they are not competition.
And I'm willing to bet that most people in D1 will still be willing to play them.
Yeah. There's maybe some, like, the very top teams. Let's say Liquid, like, top 3 at Lima or something like that. Maybe they don't put as much value in scrimming Team Secret when they probably have their pick of the litter. But I would say that Team Secret would probably have far more options, at least when it comes to Western Europe, than they used to, because now there's no potential of them playing against that team in that season. So,
so just for clarity, your prediction is that they're gonna say goodbye to both Chrysalis and Boom, or just one, or the other.
I'm not super confident one way or the other, but I think the expectation, the public expectation, is Chrysalis and Boom get kicked. At least Boom gets kicked. I'm like fairly certain about that. But yeah, we'll see. But I do think, now that I think about it more, I think Secret does have to make the change now, because again, the second season isn't going to tell you anything. So you're going to go into the third season, like with question marks of whether or not you're actually going to perform. And I'm not sure if Puppy wants to make another TI qualifier run, considering how he fell short of winning TI. And I can't help but think that having to go through the wild cards and everything else did play a factor in that.
If that's even going to happen again, have they resolved that on what the TI format's going to be, or is this still a lingering question? I don't know. I don't think they have. I think there isn't a wild card. What, from my understanding, was that I think I heard that Valve only did the wild cards because of the COVID situation. That was the only reason they did it, and they had no plan to do it again. But I feel like you should. I think it's a good addition. But they also maybe got some feedback from the teams. I don't know. Like you had both Secret and Liquid go through the wild card, and they got second and third. Like, I feel like you like the community looks at that. Like, if those teams bomb down, you could wipe your hands of the wild card and just be like, whatever. Like, we don't need to do that again. That was a COVID thing. That was because our major got canceled. But because they performed so well, both of them, like, defied all expectations, I would say, and not all expectations, but 99% of expectations for them to go through the wild card and then play second and third. It's not really a great look to take it away. I would, because then people are just going to be like looking at the teams that like almost made it through certain regions and be like, what could they have done? And there's always those questions, right? Virtus Pro got third. What could they have done? I bet they could have done pretty damn well at the TI main event. Because they lost to Secret and Liquid, like, you know. But I think I mean, I would like to see the wild cards again. My question is actually an economic one of how much money did it cost them to put the wild cards on versus what value was there gained out of doing it.
Well, this can lead into our next discussion, which TI is going back to Seattle.
Allegedly, man,
Allegedly.
This show should be called Allegedly because of all the stuff that like we're pretty sure about but don't really know.
Yeah.
I am both excited and not excited, but I think I'm more excited than not. I hope that it stays in Seattle. I hope that these rumors are true. It is an easier flight. It's in my time zone. It's cheaper. I have friends there. Seattle TIs have always spelled special and cool. I want to see what Key Arena looks like after they've redone it. I want to have the big screen out on the grass to go watch Dota and see people. Like they're all of my favorite TI moments have been. All of my favorite TI moments, except Liquid playing on the main stage in Singapore, have been in Seattle.
Yeah, I would agree that. I mean, like when it just comes to both the surroundings and the arena itself, which I guess I would consider like the outdoor TV part of the arena, but like even the surrounding area of Seattle is very nice. It always used to happen during the food festival. Which was another bonus that probably won't happen again. But like there is a lot of areas around the Key Arena that are cool to go to, both for food and activities. It is definitely by far the best venue that we've had for TI when it comes to that. Dota feels a lot more like a festival in that regard. There's a lot more like things to do outside of Dota, and I think even like the outdoor screen adds so much, I think, to your enjoyment as a viewer, because when you pay for this sort of thing, like I went to TI, I remember what it was like when you take the time out of your schedule to commit to go to TI and you pay the money and the flights and the hotels and all that sort of thing. You feel like you're missing out when you don't watch the entire thing. Mm-hmm. But if you don't watch it, like watching the entire thing is kind of a miserable experience if you do that. Like in some ways, right? You're just trapped indoors. You're like
in a stadium seat for sometimes up to 10 hours. In a stadium seat, it's not the most pleasant experience as a human. The bathrooms aren't clean. The food is expensive. You are cramped. It is dark.
Yeah, so like being able to have an outdoor option like adds so much. Because so now you can go inside, enjoy the crowd and stuff like that, and then you can go outside, like maybe get some food, watch it on the grass. Like by far the best viewer experience that I have seen for almost any tournament that I've seen. I never got to see what the CSGO Brazil major was like because I know they had an outdoor area. But I imagine that probably rivals the Key Arena setup and everything like that. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I'm happy that it's going back to Key Arena, allegedly. The rumors that we're talking about is there has been some Reddit rumors about like where the majors were going to be, and then they ended on TI going back to Seattle. And so far, well, it has been confirmed the major venues that they chose were all correct. So feels like it gives some validity to the fact that they said TI is going back to Seattle. But then John Patrick Laurie, who is a voice actor, and he does all of the announcer voices for TI, and was there in person for all of the Seattle, and I think he was there for Vancouver. I can't remember, but like he's been there time and time again. He put out a post that he was going to Lima, and then said, "I'll see you in Seattle for TI." So that got deleted afterwards, that little part about the Seattle bit. But it does feel like combined with the Reddit rumors that gives a pretty close confirmation that we're going back to Seattle.
Yeah, I would say that at this point for me, it would be a real surprise if it was not Seattle. The expectation of it being unconfirmed is that it's going to be in Seattle. Which is cool.
Particularly since these venues have to be booked well in advance, usually at least a year in advance. And like, it's not like they would have it's entirely possible that like the John Patrick Lowry just like, oh, we want you to go to TI again. And he's like, okay. And they book that with him and he just assumed it's going back to Seattle. But I feel like that's a conversation you have if it's anywhere else, at least anywhere outside of the US. That's a conversation that you have very clear in advance. Like, hey, we want you to TI and it's in this country.
Yeah. And do you have a passport?
yeah, like that sort of thing. Yeah. So, but yeah, he's going to Lima, which is another side note. Like, yeah, TI is probably going to be in Seattle, but he's going to Lima and he didn't exactly say why. So I don't know if like maybe the tournament organizer or Valve wanted him to do the in-person announcer again, or maybe he's a part of some sort of announcement. Maybe I don't think Muerta is voice acted by his wife, who is also a voice actor. She does GLaDOS, and she does like Broodmother and Death Prophet, I think. I don't think Muerta is voiced by her, which would be another reason they could go. I think I saw something about who the voice actress was for Muerta, and it wasn't her.
My assumption is that person is Latin.
Yeah, and that also would be a pretty good assumption. Yeah, I didn't even think about that aspect. But yeah, if I remember, I can't find it now, but I think she was like a singer. The woman who voice acted Muerta. So yeah. So I'm interested to see what he's doing there. And if there's going to be any sort of announcement involved outside of Muerta with that. And also, why are they bringing it back to Key Arena? Is there any particular reason that Valve wants to bring it back? I know it is a technical 10-year anniversary of Dota being released outside of beta. Maybe they just wanted it back for that. I don't know.
Random thought. I assume that it's easier for them to do it in Seattle, right? This might be an easy peasy TI year. They had problems in Romania and COVID, and then oh no, we can't do it in Sweden anymore, and like oh now we gotta go to China and Singapore. Like this TI should feel almost like a reprieve. It should be like a slam dunk. We can go home to our own beds. Everything's great. That might be part of it.
Yeah, and maybe this is just like we've had that conversation about how Valve have kind of said this is a passion project for us in the esports side and everything like that. With passion and interest going down, it's an old game. Esports is kind of a messy business. Like maybe this is just generally like, hey, we want to do TI and we want to do it on our terms. We maybe this is the future where TI just doesn't. We just come back to Seattle again and we don't bounce around TI, or maybe this is just a one-time deal. It's, hey, we just want to do it for just this year. It does mean that you get more Valve employees involved in TI because they don't have to travel anywhere. So if they have any interest in Dota or in TI or in esports or anything like that, they can be involved without having a commitment of taking a break, basically a month long, if not longer. A break of flying somewhere and being somewhere to try and set up TI. And if you're involved in that and you're flying that, you're probably spending more time even before that on TI. But if you're just like, somebody who, I just, like to like somebody who just does a little bit of programming on the side for Dota or helps with like the matchmaking system or something like that, like you can go and be involved in TI and enjoy that. I personally think it's really good for one specific aspect, which is the fact that it does get Valve employees involved in Dota, and hopefully that it helps their image of Dota be boosted a little bit by just seeing a bunch of fans come together and enjoy Dota. You sometimes forget the joy and the love that goes into the game. When all you get is the Reddit aspect of the game, which is very often not full of joy and love, and very often full of "fuck you, Valve, fix this, do that." What's wrong with you? Why don't you talk to us?
Why even play this game anymore? Everybody's a Smurf or a hacker.
Yeah, so then these sort of communities are naturally going to be like, criticism is just more natural, I think, for communities like that. And so if criticism is more natural, then it becomes a negative like culture if you're on the receiving end of it. But when you're at a stadium and it's full of people who are just happy and love being there and stuff like that, then I think it's an entirely different aspect of the fans of your game that you get to experience. So
I just hope it happens, man. I just want to go to RGB's and get some ginger beer and watch TI on the grass. That's all I can ask for. Also, that means that selfishly that there would be an event again in America this year, which we got one last year through Texas.
I mean, it's, America, North America, South America be feasting this year if that is going to be the case, because even if you're not going to Lima, but you're in the Americas, then it's on your time zone, which both Lima and TI. So, you know.
Yeah, what is
good for Americas, bad for the rest of the world.
Is Lima EST?
The rest of the world is a much bigger part of Dota, much larger part of the fan base, but
yeah, Lima is EST. Oh, buddy, I'm not gonna have to stay up at night to watch those games. I just realized that. Woo!
Yeah, I'm currently in a group, and it's all the other talent, and they're talking about like, oh, dude, the poor people from like Southeast Asia. That's another reason why I'm not sure C is gonna do so well. It's like a 30-hour plus flight for you to get from Southeast Asia to South America, because you have to go up into the northern hemisphere and then back down to the southern hemisphere. People from Europe not having a great time getting there. Meanwhile, it's like a 9-hour flight for me.
Yeah, I mean, because how do they
chill?
How do they fly from Southeast Asia? You probably have to go to the West Coast and then down.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's where most, or maybe Japan. It's possible. Maybe there's some direct flights from Japan, so maybe they have to go up. But Tokyo is a common stop for me when I go to Southeast Asia, so maybe there's a direct.
I wonder if there's any flights that go like through Australia and then stay down.
Yeah.
That's pretty far though, because even the flights to like Sydney to LA are long, and you have to go further to go to South America. But Lima is on the West Coast. I don't know. Someone tell me in the comments. Is there anything else? Is there anything else Dota wise before you go pack your bags, buddy boy?
No, I don't think so.
Then you wanna
question?
Yeah, you wanna hit up that pin post that we have not touched in a hot minute. I haven't updated.
Okay. Let me find a question I haven't done yet, and I did a Vermilion one last time, I think. So let me find a different one.
It's probably true. It's been a minute, but yeah.
Okay, we got a patch coming up soon, so I think this question is pretty decent. Patrick LeBron says, with all the interesting new ags every patch, why is Venos still just extra damage? We haven't done this question before, right?
I've
talked about this before.
I'm gonna say no, but you have talked about Venos ags before.
Why is it just extra damage? Yeah, it's kind of boring. That being said, most of Venomancer's identity is just damage. Part of what I've been on a kick lately, or I've been playing Core Hoodwink, and I've been experimenting with her Aghanim Scepter. Do you know what her Aghanim Scepter does, Joey?
I was really hoping you weren't going to ask me.
Well, it's called Decoy. It's basically her old shard. But now you get the Aghanim Scepter, you create a decoy of yourself, you go invisible, and your decoy starts channeling your ultimate. And it will channel for the full 5 seconds, and it will automatically aim at the closest hero. And then at the end of it, it'll release it. And you basically get a second ultimate in a very extreme set of circumstances where you can actually somehow control a hero for 5 seconds. And I have been experimenting with that, seeing if it's any good. And when you do pull it off, it's cool, and it does do a lot of damage. But trying to get it It's so hard. It's so hard to actually hit
because
somebody.
You have to decoy in a spot where you can actually like hit them eventually, because it always charges the full time.
So I have to hit. Let me go through the keys. So I have to hit E to run through the trees, drop Q, the Alt Q, in order to drop the tree on somebody. Hit the bushwhack instantly, decoy, or what I've been doing is decoying beforehand, so I shave off like an extra second, which they do here. I think they get a sound cue that's going on, so even that's risky. But then use decoy, pop your ultimate as well. So for me, T then R, and then shoot the boomerang. And then release your ultimate, and then you have to like Scythe of Vice them or Gleipnir them or something to hold them after they get bushwhacked for enough time for your decoy to release its ultimate. And it's just like a lot of shit for a relatively, I would say, low output when compared to a different hero called Lina. Who, when she goes her magic damage build, that's right, there's 2 different builds to Lina. You can go the magic damage build, and like the fucking ending scene of Watchmen, where the blue guy, I forgot his name, goes and just fucking, spoilers, pops Rorschach just with a wave of his hand, or Lina, she just kind of casually just points at you and does 1 billion damage and turns you inside out like a fucking finger of death. Yeah, it's like the ease of execution for Lina to just, fly over and drop her pure damage Laguna Blade on your ass, and doing more damage than the things that I just described with Hoodwink's nonsense.
Your literal 8 button presses?
Yeah. She could just pop Aghanim Scepter, fly over, and fucking Laguna Blade you, and then refresh if she wants to, and Laguna Blade you again, and there's literally nothing you could do about it. Except have an Aeon disc, I guess. That's like there is a difference here, and that is how I see Venomancer's ultimate as well, and the fact that this hero that only provides really damage,
specifically dot damage.
Yeah, specifically damage over time, giving him an Aghanim Scepter that only does damage, when everybody else, through their shards and their Aghanim Scepter, is getting mobility, getting new spells. It just... You have already hit the power creep of giving all of these heroes mobility spells or disables when their identity originally never had any. The cat is out of the box. You have opened Pandora's box of what happens if we give all of these heroes that don't have disables, give them disables, or all these heroes that don't have some sort of mobility spell, a mobility spell. You've already opened that box. You have to keep opening it. You can't just fucking close the box again and leave some of the heroes left inside the box. And Venomancer is one of those heroes. You can't just leave him on an only damage buff when he doesn't have a disable or an escape mechanism like 90% of the heroes in Dota right now.
Can I reframe this a little bit philosophically?
Sure.
Does every hero need to have an interesting Aghanim Scepter?
No, but every hero in Dota, I think right now, does need to have, SVG loves this word, a robust. He likes talking about robust heroes, a robust toolkit. You need to be able to have multiple tools.
Just makes me think of Marcy. I just when you say robust, I just think Marcy.
Yes, she is the most robusty of all the motherfucking robusty heroes
like
out there.
That one, but like
she robusting out right now. Okay, she is, because we've had this discussion. Go back a few podcast episodes of where I list all the things that Marcy is able to do, just individual tools, mechanics that she does. Venomancer does like a slow. It's like, I slow you. You can still blink away. You can still force staff away. He's got a vision mechanic with the wards, but it's not as good as other things. When it comes to vision, what it is good at is disabling blink daggers. That is a bonus. That is a pro in his toolkit. What else does he have? His shard does give you a stun. And it's an actually pretty interesting stun. I like the shard because it can give you a stun off of their BKB usage, which is a huge problem for Venomancer, right? He's just damage over time and is completely negated by a BKB, which sucks. But now his shard gives him an option where if you hit that on somebody and they try and dispel, they get stunned. And they take damage, but like more importantly, they can pop BKB and be stunned as a result of the shard. So the shard is super cool. It gives him a disable, and it gives him an interesting mechanic.
Because it
now
works.
You just need to complete it with the Aghanim Scepter and give him a different, interesting mechanic. Because the hero by itself is boring. You can give Marcy to wrap up this question. Like, you can give Marcy a boring Aghanim Scepter because her toolkit, she has so many tools. She doesn't need any more fucking tools. She's fucking what's that guy's name from Tool Time?
Tim
that
the Toolman Taylor.
Yeah. That's her when she's flying through the air. You know, that's her. Venomancer does not have a whole lot of tools, so you gotta make the Aghanim Scepter be interesting and do something, because the hero naturally does not have as much as others.
Is Venomancer like one of the more flagrant heroes in this regard, or are there other people we should look at first?
Venomancer is definitely on that list. I think Venge is another hero that I personally want to see changes for the patch. She is a hero that does have some interesting mechanics, no doubt. I think both the Ags and the Shard are pretty interesting. It's just that what she does pales in comparison. So her unique mechanic is the swap tool. Mm-hmm. And I think Tony the Tiny.
Tony the Toolman Taylor.
Yeah. I think Tony is a broken hero conceptually, for what he does, but like Tiny just does what Venge does like 1,000 times better, right? He repositions a hero and is way tankier than Venge is, even with the also you can send them farther. You also you can have the ability maxed out at level 7, where you can't get maxed out swap until level 18. There's another aspect of that. This hero has Vengeance Aura, which is just innately just doesn't really do a whole lot. It's basically like a Vlad's at this point in time, where it's just a base damage bonus. It's just worse Vlad's, in my opinion. So I think that is another hero where, because the swap is underpowered compared to other heroes and the Vengeance Aura is boring and doesn't do anything, that is another hero that needs a rework. She has more interesting mechanics than Venomancer for sure, but she still suffers from what I think is the same kind of identity crisis, in that she doesn't do that much, and what she does, other heroes do better.
The two that are top of mind to me, and you can tell me I'm wrong about this, and it's definitely more focused on like hero pool that I'm familiar with, is Ursa and Abaddon.
Wrong. Sorry, what?
Ursa and Abaddon. Those are two that I would put in the same bucket as Veno, which feel like their toolkits are a little bit more restricted, and the Ags aren't exciting.
So I will agree with you to some extent, but I think Ursa falls under the do you need to have an interesting Aghanims for every hero? I don't think so. I think what the Aghanims and what the Shard gives you are powerful, even if they are boring. And the hero, I think, has enough interesting mechanics to it. It doesn't have a stun, but it functionally has a stun, because same with Marcy, like you have this attack speed buff that with a basher functionally is a disable. Mm-hmm. It's got a little bit like if the hero had old Urshok is actually a great example of like the power scale the heroes experience, and like, right, Urshok used to be just a centaur AoE. A centaur's a hero. Centaur is actually that hero, Joey. But yeah, he used to just like, just slam the ground, and it didn't really do. But Urshok now gives you mobility. Oh, and Urshok also with the Shard makes you enrage, which gives you damage reduction and status resistance. Like that is a great example of how power scale in Dota has naturally left certain heroes behind, because every hero has to experience this. Basically, every hero needs to have their quote unquote boring ability be amped up, because otherwise they just cannot keep pace with everybody else in Dota.
Okay, so Poison Nova now makes you fly and stun everybody and spawn 3 wards on their corpse. Problem solved.
I mean, the spawning wards, if they get hit by it, right? That they did that with Gale. That's an interesting idea. You could make wards that get hit by Poison Nova do more damage,
like
or something.
Make them super wards.
Yeah, you could. Yeah, like there are definitely some options of what I think the ideal would be giving this hero just an entirely different, unique ability. Centaur is a great example of another hero that's just left behind. He still has his "I'm gonna slam the ground" stun like so many other heroes used to have, but then they got updated to something else. He still has Hoof Stomp, a Dota 1 ability, and that is part of his problem. He still has Retaliate, which is functionally still a Dota 1 ability. That hero sucks because he has Dota 1 abilities, and Dota 2 abilities are way better.
I like that that's the way that you framed it, actually. That makes more sense to me. Thinking about something as a Dota 1 ability versus a Dota 2 ability. Because Marcy does not exist in any version of Dota 1 ever.
God, no. Right? Marcy would fucking eat the entire Dota 1 roster and shit it out before lunch. Like that hero, that hero doesn't even compare. Here's another example. Sven, right? Sven, you're a carry player. Do you like playing Sven?
Generally not.
Okay. That hero, not super interesting.
It's boring, and I feel like I never know when to ult properly to get, like, I never feel like I'm ulting properly.
Okay.
Yeah.
That hero has some Dota 1 abilities, but he used to have even more Dota 1 abilities where Stormbolt, Stormhammer used to be a single target stun instead of doing a stun and an AoE around a single target. Like that. That is, Warcry is an activatable ability instead of a passive aura. Like those are 2 examples of Dota 1 ability versus Dota 2 ability, and like how naturally they're just stronger.
I like this. Well, I'm pretty sure that was an adequately answered Patreon question. If you want to submit a question that we can talk about at the end of the show, sometimes it's patreon.com/sidepoll. We appreciate the support, and I think that's probably it. You probably have to. I
like how that Patreon question asked a question, and I just re-amplified it. The guy's like, "Why do Venomancer Ags only do damage?" And I'm like, "Yeah, why does Venomancer's Ags only do more damage? I don't fucking know, Patrick, but I think that's a problem."
I feel like it's a plant question. Patrick might actually be you.
True, I paid $5 just to put in. You guys suck at asking questions. I'm gonna do better ones.
You wanted a soapbox. That is a challenge for everybody to go ahead and toss a question on Patreon. I'll go ahead and put a new post up for the new month. And then safe travels down to South America. I hope that you don't get involved in any government coups and generally stay safe. And maybe I'll see you in Lima. Dude.
An American doing a coup in South America? I never.